Emily, you wrote this extraordinarily illuminating narrative piece about what the effects of allowing the census to be asked, citizenship to be asked on the census would be. But just give us your sense of what Roberts' decision to join the liberals in the census case and the conservatives in the gerrymandering case says about the future of politics in America.
A nice small question to start off the morning.
To start out.
I'm going to start for 1 second by just saying how important the census is. Before I started working on this piece for the Times Magazine, I confess to have taken the census for granted. It's not the most dramatic and sexy part of our system, but it underlines everything. It's our basis of allocating taxpayer dollars across the country. It's how we apportion political power. So there's a huge amount at stake in making sure that the census is as accurate as possible. And all the research the Census Bureau itself did about adding a citizenship question suggested that that would cause less accuracy, an undercount, especially of immigrant communities and people who are networked to them. And that has a ripple effect in cities where there are larger populations of immigrants. It means less money flows to those cities. It means less political power. So Roberts' opinion yesterday, the key section of it, which found that the government did not give a plausible rationale for adding the citizenship question, the key part of the opinion that, at least for now, will prevent that question from being added, was only joined by the 4 liberal justices. So you see Roberts here playing this really important role as a check. It's a temporary result because Roberts wrote this opinion in a very careful way. Here are all the reasons why what the government did was perfectly legitimate, doesn't violate what's called the enumerations clause, the lines in the Constitution that actually obligate the conducting of a sentence. Here's why it didn't necessarily violate what's called the Administrative Procedures Act. So there's just this one little problem for the government to fix. They have to come up with a reason that's not made up or, frankly, a lie for deciding to add this question. And the government has been saying that the census forms need to be printed by the end of June, that this was extremely urgent. But there's testimony in the record that, in fact, they may have until October. And you may have seen that President Trump tweeted yesterday, "I want you to get moving to correct this error." And so we may have what's quite a kind of temporary respite from the addition of the question to the census. And then when I think about Roberts' role overall, you see yesterday, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this, in the gerrymandering case, a very political decision takes the federal courts out of preventing extreme partisan gerrymandering in a way that the practical import gives more power to Republicans because they control more state houses in an era in which gerrymandering is becoming more partisan. The news yesterday balances that result with this seemingly more centrist or moderate decision in the census case, and yet that may be very temporary. So I think it's important to put a kind of asterisk on what this really means for Chief Justice Roberts' legacy.